Hey everyone, welcome back to Exposed, Scandalous Files of the Elite. I'm your host, Jim Chapman, and today I am bringing you one of the most infuriating, bizarre, and shocking cases I've ever told. And I know that's saying a lot, but I'm saying it. And this could be a bad teacher's episode, but I'm just going to release it as an Exposed original episode because it goes far beyond this person being a teacher. Now, his name is James Hooker, and he had at least 3, in my view, inappropriate relationships with young girls that spanned at least 25 years. So we're going to jump right into this one, which really became what I would term as hyper public in 2012. When a mother revealed on Facebook that her 18-year-old high school senior daughter was having an affair with her 41-year-old teacher. And I said the word affair intentionally because this 41-year-old teacher, he had left his wife of nearly 20 years and their 3 children, with one of those children being his 17-year-old daughter, for this 18-year-old high school senior. His name was James Hooker. Not only does he leave his entire family, he moves into a house with this 18-year-old by the name of Jordan Powers. Now, one thing I am absolutely certain of is that James did not count on the fact that Jordan's mom was one of those mothers, like I'm sure most, if not all of my listeners are. She's one of those moms that would stop at nothing to expose this guy, regardless of the extents that she had to go to. And that's just what she did. So before we get into a lot of the things she did to expose this, I want to tell you a little about James Hooker. He was born in 1970, and at this time that the relationship became public in 2012, he lived and he taught in Modesto, California. He had been a teacher for quite a long time, since 1998. So even though he was 41 years old when all this became public, he had taught for nearly 20 years. First at what is known as Davis High School in Modesto, California, and then at James Enoch High School. Now, as I said, he had been married nearly 20 years. He had 3 children in 2012, and he and his family were very active in his church. And from the outside, this guy appeared very smart, very mature, if you will. He just did not seem like the type of guy to be tied up into all of this. So that's a little bit about him. Let's get into the mother in this saga, whose mission, as I said, was to expose all of this, and it really made all of the difference in the world. And her name at the time was Tammie Powers, and she brought that pain to this guy so hard, y'all, on Facebook in 2012 that this story went national. And she went through Facebook to do it. And this is 2012, y'all. Facebook was not what it is today. But Miss Powers, she managed to build quite a following at that time by talking about all this, some 10,000 followers, which today, in today's numbers, you would really equate that to 100,000 followers. Facebook was just not near the size in 2012 that it is today. So it became so high profile that year that 18-year-old Jordan Powers and the 41-year-old James Hooker, they appear on Good Morning America. Hooker admitted to leaving his family because he was, quote, in love, and that he knew the risk. And when asked if something occurred prior to Jordan turning 18, both Hooker and Jordan denied it. And he also mentioned that he resigned from the school at the point that he decided to pursue Jordan because of the optics. And he also said that Jordan, this 18-year-old senior, was his best friend and more than just a lover. How sweet. And really, this was what this initial case totally centered around. She was 18 years old, so she was a consenting adult at the point that he left his wife. But the question here was, how long had this relationship been going on? Now, shortly after that, the couple appeared on what was the biggest show on TV at that time, and that was the Dr. Phil show. And this time, someone else appeared on that show as well, Miss Powers. Now, y'all know Dr. Phil don't play, and he brings the receipts, right? And here he is calling out some of the questionable statements made by that couple on the show.
You started a relationship with her while she was a student of yours, correct?
We were friends, and that friendship turned into a little bit more, yes.
But you're saying that nothing inappropriate happened, nothing that crossed a line or a barrier happened until she was 18.
That is true, yes.
There were no text messages, phone calls, secret meetings, going to hotels, anything of that nature?
No.
Okay, so up until your birthday was on the 5th of September in 2011. Mm-hmm. And you say up until that time, it was just purely teacher-student.
Correct.
Okay, is that the truth?
Yes, it is.
Because it doesn't seem to be the truth. And, I don't know. You can explain this to me, because you turned 18 on September 5th of 2011. But on July 21st of 2011, there are 5 text messages between you two between 2:54 and 2:57 p.m. On August 10th, there's an incoming call from you at 7:13 a.m. On the 9th, there are 9 text messages between the two of you between 9:53 a.m. and 10:02 a.m. On Friday the 19th, there's a picture video message received by you from Jordan. On Saturday the 3rd, there's a text message sent to Jordan at 8:30 p.m., and then 7 text messages between 7:18 and 9:31. And I've seen the phone records that those things took place. So that's not what you just told me. You said up until her birthday, no meetings, no text messages, no going to the hotels, anything of the sort. And I have here 22 text messages, 1 picture video message, and a phone call before her 18th birthday.
And they were all student and teacher text messages. The ones in August or July were just stating that I text him saying I have him as a teacher. I saw my schedule. It was nothing inappropriate. It was nothing along the lines of that.
I'm asking because I've raised 2 kids, and I never had this kind of contact going on between a teacher and student. 22 something text messages, phone calls, pictures. What were you talking about?
School stuff. I mean, the ones over summer, like I said, where I have you as a teacher. Mm-hmm. And the other ones probably in August are when school started. Just texting him like, I'm going to be late to class, because I had his number, because I had him for in summer school. I mean, he has a lot of students' numbers. It was all school related.
I would love to know what y'all's thoughts are on that. Makes me say, Now, at that point, Dr. Phil digs a little bit deeper into the relationship, and then he goes backstage because another guest was there, and it was none other than Mama Powers herself, and he speaks to her initially backstage, and I want to play you that clip.
You've been watching the show up to this point, right?
I have.
Any comments or notes on what you've seen so far?
Well, yeah, he's contended this whole time that he's had no contact with this kid, as a minor. And that's a lie. Those phone records indicate that he pursued her.
Have you talked to her about her relationship with him? Have you said, are you having sex with this man? And if so, what did she say?
They both contended it was platonic, that he was a father figure, that it wasn't sexual of nature. She's had a boyfriend up until a month ago, a 4-year relationship with a boy her age. Mm-hmm. So I had no indication that this was other than what she said.
When is your earliest indication that it was a romantic relationship?
A romantic? Mm-hmm. Not until I knew that they had gone to hotels and actually had sex. I just didn't believe any of it.
And when was that? When did you find out?
That was the morning that she moved out. Mm-hmm. I didn't know. I still didn't believe it. And what did she tell
you then?
That she had sex with him, and that it was true, and that...
Did she tell you when?
No. She was talking about the hotels, and I said, you stayed in hotels with him? And She said, I did.
This is while she was a student.
This is while she was a student.
But after she was 18.
But after she was 18.
Okay. And what do you think about your daughter's point of view? She says, no, I'm in love. You know your daughter. What do you think?
She's a child. It's a child's perspective. She's in love, and next week she could be in love with someone else. I don't think she understands the magnitude of this.
Who is my boo?
That's James Hooker. He was listed in her phone under my boo, so that other students wouldn't realize they were texting back and forth in class.
And your older daughter says that she saw a text message between them in January, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. What did it say?
I'll love you forever. Something to the effect that if I can get away, I don't know if I can text you. And she brought it to my attention. I think there's something going on with Jordan and Mr. Hooker. And I said, I don't think so. He's a church-going family man, and I don't think that this is happening.
Now tell me about the promise ring that said "Love Waits" that she was wearing over the summer.
Well, I didn't physically see it. I didn't see it myself, but her boyfriend said that she would take off her promise ring with him and put this ring on. And she said, my nana, my grandma bought it. I called my mom and said, did you send this kid a ring? She said, I didn't send her a ring.
And you think the ring came from him?
I do.
You don't know that?
I don't know for a fact. I don't know for a fact, but it was a mentionable that I'm finding stuff out daily.
Well, he says that you are very hostile towards him, which I can certainly understand.
I am.
And that this thing has spiraled out of control because you have started a smear campaign.
Well, it has spiraled. It spiraled a lot. But I tried civilly, administratively, legally. And I was at a point where high emotions create a level of irrationality. Either I go to jail, I get arrested, or I try a different forum.
You have said at one point that you wanted to stab him.
I did. I said, he's not coming here. You're not going with him. If he comes into my home, I will stab him. Mm-hmm. And that was, based on emotion, but I felt that way.
So your belief, just so I'm clear about this,
okay.
Your belief is, so you think he's violated his duties as an educator and as a teacher?
Absolutely.
Whether she was 18 or not.
He was in a position of authority. I entrusted him with my child, and that's not okay. He knew better, and he was impulsive and selfish, and he's acted upon it.
I want to talk with them.
Okay.
I would like to have you there. Are you willing to come out and sit with us and talk about this?
I will. I'll come out.
So a couple of things with that last clip that you heard. First, I think Mom is dead on here. No doubt this girl was being groomed, in my mind, prior to the age of 18. And she handled it the way that I'm sure most would. And again, this guy has a daughter who goes to the same damn school and is 17 years old, just about the same age as the girl that he has left his whole family for. What is wrong with this guy that he would even look at this newly turned 18-year-old, practically the same age as his daughter, and be sexually attracted? I don't get it. Look, I have 20-year-old daughters, y'all, and it is the God's honest truth. I can't look at 20-year-olds the same way I did 15 years ago or 20 years ago. I see my daughters now, and I see girls that age, and it just looks like my daughter's friends. It just ain't in me. I just don't understand that mentality. It's gross to me. And another thing I found interesting about this episode, Mama Powers, I know y'all can't see her when you're listening to this podcast, but I will for sure post a few pics of her on the Patreon. Mom Powers, she looks to be around the same age as this guy. She's probably maybe mid-40s, something like that. And she is a very attractive woman. And the whole time I'm thinking, okay, you got this man sitting across from you, 41-year-old teacher, and the daughter sitting on the side of him. And if I'm him, I'm looking at the mother. I'm not looking at the daughter. The mother's a smoke show, quite frankly. Just blew my mind that this guy I can't relate, y'all. It bothers me. I don't get the mentality. It's just sick. So this Dr. Phil show airs, and that was March 13th of 2012. And look, as crazy as it sounds, not only then did California not have a law banning student-teacher relationships when the student is an 18-year-old high schooler. But even now, in 2025, they still don't have a law, although most other states do. And we've talked about a lot of those on the Bad Teacher series. Now, it was not long later, as a matter of fact, less than a month later, when James Hooker was arrested. But it had nothing to do with his relationship with Jordan Powers. As a matter of fact, it had to do with a relationship that allegedly occurred much earlier, way back in 1998, when he allegedly committed oral sex on a 17-year-old female student that he was teaching in his early years of teaching. Now, apparently, this young lady who chose to identify herself, her name was Michelle Miller. She got the courage to do that, to come out and tell her story from watching the Dr. Phil episode and just watch this guy act as if he has never done this stuff before. And he was just a stand-up citizen who happened to be in love with this 18-year-old girl and left his wife and his family all because of love. It must have just sickened her, and she came out and she told her story. Well, as you can imagine, this doesn't sit too well with Jordan, his 18-year-old current girlfriend at this time. And he calls her after he's arrested from the jail. And according to her, she went on Good Morning America and she said that she felt betrayed and that her heart dropped when she found out about this, and that she told him when he called her from the jail, hey, we are done. She also said she regretted the relationship, that she had lost everything for this guy, including her senior year of high school, her friends, and a normal high school experience. However, this guy is such a good manipulator that they did briefly reconcile after that. And on November 6th of 2012, James Hooker appears for his plea hearing in that case regarding the oral sex back in 1998. And he, of course, pleaded not guilty. And by his side in that hearing was none other than Jordan Powers. Now, I'm going to reference an article quickly, and this is from modb.com. A former Modesto school teacher appeared in court Tuesday with his teenage girlfriend and pleaded not guilty to an allegation of having a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old girl 14 years ago. A judge last month ruled that there was enough evidence for James Hooker, now 42, of Modesto to stand trial on one count of committing oral copulation with a person younger than 18, stemming from an alleged incident in the summer of 1998. The alleged victim, now a 31-year-old woman, testified in Hooker's preliminary hearing that the defendant performed oral sex on her at his mother's rural house near Turlock. Tuesday morning, the defendant briefly appeared in the Stanislaus County Superior Court for his arraignment. He arrived at the courthouse with his girlfriend, Jordan Powers. Hooker gained national attention earlier this year when he left his wife and 3 daughters and quit his job as a business teacher at Enoch High School to move in with Powers, an 18-year-old former student. He has not been charged with any potential misconduct stemming from his relationship with Powers. Mary Lynn Belcher, Hooker's defense attorney, asked the judge for more time before he schedules a date to start the trial. Hooker said he needs more time to gather enough money to retain his attorney to represent him in that trial. Detectives initially began to investigate Hooker in January after Tammie Powers reported an inappropriate relationship between her daughter and Hooker, who was then a teacher at Enoch High School. Jordan Powers moved in with Hooker on February 22nd, the day he resigned from Modesto County Schools. During that investigation, the detectives learned of the alleged victim from 1998. She told police she was involved in a romantic relationship with Hooker that summer after she graduated from high school. She testified that she met Hooker at a Future Business Leaders of America conference, and he was a business teacher at Davis High. She was a senior at Bayer High. A few weeks after the alleged sexual encounter at her mother's house in August of 1998, Hooker ended the relationship, the woman said. She testified that he told her his wife had discovered an email that revealed the affair. So that case drags out until 2014. And look, this victim, and I'm going to call her a victim because that is what she was. She had one heck of an attorney that I have talked about before. She was represented by Gloria Allred, who has made a living representing female victims of sexual crimes. So I'm going to reference two articles here. The first is from MyBee.com, and it covers Michelle Miller speaking out after the sentencing hearing for James Hooker, who, when the dust settled, pleaded no contest to those charges. And then I'm going to quote a statement released by Gloria Allred. And the article reads, Michelle Miller's hand quivered as she tightly held a written statement explaining how at 17 years old, she became involved in a sexual relationship with a Modesto teacher. She met Hooker at a Future Business Leaders of America conference. He was then a business teacher at Davis High School. She was a senior at Bayer High. Quote, there were no warning signs I could see, Miller said while reading her victim impact statement. James Hooker didn't act like a predator. She said she suffered from depression, had lost contact with her friends, and her boyfriend had moved 2 hours away for a job. Miller said she was vulnerable, and Hooker took advantage of that vulnerability. Quote, the person responsible is James Hooker, she said. Hooker, now a former teacher, was sentenced Wednesday after pleading no contest earlier this week to misdemeanor charges of having oral sex with Miller 15 years ago. He has been ordered to register as a sex offender for life and serve 4 years of probation. The defendant sat quietly in the courtroom as Miller read her statement. He admitted to performing oral sex on Miller, but Hooker has maintained he did not know she was underage. Bullshit. Leaving court after the sentencing, Hooker's defense attorney, Mary Lynn Belcher, told photographers, get away from my client, and called them rude. She didn't make any comments about the conclusion of the case. Hooker did not make any statements during the hearing or afterward, as he and his 19-year-old girlfriend and former student Jordan Powers were followed by news cameras out of the courthouse. The couple's relationship gained national media last year, which prompted Miller to finally tell her side of the story. During an investigation into Hooker's relationship with Powers, detectives learned of Miller. She told detectives she had a romantic relationship with Hooker the summer after she graduated from high school. A few weeks after the sexual encounter at her mother's house near Turlock in August of 1998, Hooker ended the relationship. She testified that Hooker told her his wife had discovered an email that revealed the affair. Miller first learned of Hooker's relationship with another high school student last year when she spotted a link to a news story on a friend's Facebook page. In her victim impact statement, she said she discovered Hooker was not even able to end his marriage with integrity before starting that relationship with another teenager. Quote, I felt instantly sick as I waited for the news article to load, Miller said. He had become a repeat offender and I felt it would not end with Jordan Powers. Miller, now 32, read her statement while standing near the jury box and the counsel table facing the judge. Celebrity attorney Gloria Allred stood by her side. Allred represented Miller and attended Hooker's October preliminary hearing. Miller had been identified in court as Jane Doe, but her attorney said her client gave her permission to reveal her name to news media gathered outside the courthouse. So now I'm going to get into the statement that Gloria Allred released regarding the Michelle Miller case, also very important. And it said, today, James Hooker was sentenced after he entered a plea of no contest to a misdemeanor charge of oral copulation of a minor. I represent the victim in this case, Michelle Miller, who has given me permission to use her name and reveal her identity to the public. Miss Miller is now 32 years old. She was 17 when she met James Hooker. He was, at the time, a business teacher at Davis High School, and she was a senior at another high school. But she met him because he was an adult chaperone for her and another student who had been selected to attend a Future Business Leaders of America conference in Florida. At the time, the victim was extremely vulnerable because of the challenges she was facing in her personal life. Mr. Hooker, like many sexual predators, must have sensed that vulnerability and taken advantage of it. He began a romantic relationship with Michelle even though he was still married. Mr. Hooker has recently admitted through a stipulation in court in advance of his trial that he did perform oral sex on my client, the victim in this case. Prior to the criminal case, Mr. Hooker has been on the news last year because of his relationship with another high school student, Jordan Powers. Mr. Hooker, at the time of the relationship, was still married and was 41 years old. He also appeared on Good Morning America and Dr. Phil, which he seemed to revel in it. While the mother of Jordan Powers was visibly upset that Mr. Hooker, a married man approximately 23 years older than her daughter, was engaging in a relationship with her daughter. Today, Mr. Hooker no longer appears to be smiling with pride about his relationship with another young woman, the victim in this case. Because of her courage, Mr. Hooker was charged with felony oral copulation of a minor under the age of 18. It was only on the eve of the trial that the defendant, Mr. Hooker, entered a plea, which is tantamount to a plea of guilty and for which he has been sentenced. The sentence includes a requirement that Mr. Hooker must register as a sex offender, and it places restrictions on his contacts with minors under the age of 18. The requirement that Mr. Hooker must register as a sex offender was extremely important to my client, and because this was a condition of the plea, Michelle has agreed to the plea being offered in lieu of a trial. I'm extremely proud of Michelle. She has demonstrated enormous courage in reporting Mr. Hooker's criminal conduct to law enforcement. She did so because she felt that was her duty to report a crime against a minor. She has paid a high price emotionally for performing her duty. Some people who have no knowledge of what she suffered because of Mr. Hooker's criminal conduct toward her have mistakenly criticized her for coming forward. However, she understood that if she had evidence regarding this defendant, she should share it with law enforcement and allow them to determine its value or lack of it in the criminal justice system. Because she has done the right thing, other children will now receive a measure of protection, and Mr. Hooker will be recognized for the predator that he is. Now Mr. Hooker has been sentenced. Michelle is no longer a victim. She is now empowered and an inspirational survivor. I have been honored to have been able to support her in her journey. She has been an inspiration to me and many others who have been the victims of sexual predatory misconduct by adults. And that's Gloria Allred's statement. So at this point in Hooker's life, his 18-year-old girlfriend, Jordan Powers, incidentally, she did see the light at some point and she leaves him, and he had already left his first wife of 20 years and 3 kids to be with her. And he now has a record of no contest to oral sex with a minor. He can't even be around minors as far as a job is concerned. This guy's just made a huge mess of his life, and you would think that would be it, right? No way. One thing I can tell you about these type of predators, in my personal opinion, it is never it for them. This is, in my opinion, a sickness that has no cure, and these type of predators never stop. And so it would come to no surprise for me that years later, James Hooker would make the national news again when it is discovered the now 55-year-old was discovered to have married an 18-year-old girl by the name of Autumn Rose. So prepare yourself, because what I'm about to tell you about, it is going to shock you. So allegedly, James Hooker met Autumn Rose when she was 15 years old. And all predators hunt for prey. He's no different. And where do they hunt for their prey? Social media. As I said, she was 15 years old. She was a middle school student, and allegedly he misrepresented himself to her at the time, basically catfished her. And he told her he was in his early 20s and he worked for the U.S. Postal Service. So there's not much out there on what occurred over the next several years after they met, but it's speculated that they started soon having sex after he initiated that initial contact with Autumn. And there's a reason why that's speculated with evidence backing it. So Autumn turns 18 and they get married. And this is just in 2023, a couple years ago. Well, nothing significant occurs until the following year, when in September of 2024, Hooker gets arrested on 2 charges. Now, count 1 was lewd and lascivious acts on a child aged 14 to 15, and the other was possession of child pornography. Now, it's reported that a totally different minor contacted police after Hooker sent said minor pictures of him engaging in sex acts with Autumn Rose when she was 15 years old. Now, how did police confirm this? Well, they spoke to Autumn Rose, who admitted to the time frame when these pictures were taken. And so James Hooker, finally gets arrested. Autumn Rose is, of course, the star witness because she is the only one that could definitively confirm that time frame, right? Hooker goes to court. He pleads not guilty in an arraignment, of course, because you have nothing to lose when you plead not guilty in an arraignment. He makes bail. And here's where everything gets really strange. In late 2024, there's a hearing because James Hooker files some sort of restraining order against Autumn Rose. Now, in said hearing, Autumn Rose tells the judge she was kind of surprised to hear that he even wanted to file a restraining order because she had been asking for a divorce for months. Well, an order is put into place, and somewhere over the preceding month, Hooker and Autumn Rose apparently reconcile. And remember, she is the star witness in this case. But the restraining order at some point apparently gets dropped, and they move back in together. And a few months pass. And in July of 2025, Autumn Rose, who at this point is 20 years old, get ready for this, is found dead at the home that she shares with James Hooker. Now, this was just days away from her testimony in James Hooker's trial. So the state, at this point, they drop the first count, the major count, against James Hooker in that indictment, the lewd and lascivious acts with a minor, because there was no witness now who could verify the age of Autumn Rose at the time that these pictures were taken. Now, the coroner in this case finds that the cause of death was alcohol-related liver failure. Basically, a 20-year-old who drank herself to death just days before her testimony. Man, that just does not sit right with me. The timing is impeccable to me. And it didn't sit right with her family either. And I'm going to reference one more article today, and it is where her family spoke out on just that, put out by the Modesto Bee on July 18th of 2025. And it says the death of a 20-year-old Turlock woman has forced prosecutors to drop a key charge against James Hooker, the former Modesto teacher notoriously accused of grooming teenage girls. Her family said the decision has left it without justice. Autumn Rose, the woman at the center of the case, was found dead in early July while under Hooker's care. Authorities initially deemed her death suspicious, but a subsequent autopsy ruled it to be health-related, likely due to the alcohol-related liver failure. That, according to Stanislaus County Deputy DA. Rose had been scheduled to testify this week in a child molestation case against Hooker. Prosecutors say Hooker, now 55, began a sexual relationship with her when she was 15. The two later married after she turned 18. But without her testimony, the district attorney said prosecutors didn't have enough evidence to proceed. One of the charges, a felony child molestation count, was dismissed after her death. Quote, we can sometimes go forward without a victim like in homicide cases, but due to special circumstances in this case, we weren't able to do that. Hooker still faces a felony charge for possession of child pornography involving images of Rose as a minor. He is not in custody and is scheduled to return to court August 26. Rose's mother, Marina Gonzalez, said that her daughter told her she first met Hooker on social media when she was 15. Quote, he presented himself as a man in his early 20s who worked for the U.S. Postal Service. I didn't know who he really was until after she turned 18, Gonzalez said. But by then, she was already in deep, and if I had pushed her too hard, I was afraid I was going to lose her completely. It wasn't until Gonzalez and Rose's father, Matthew Rose, did their own research, they learned the truth. Hooker had made national headlines in 2012 after resigning from Enoch High School after his relationship with an 18-year-old student, Jordan Powers, became public. Hooker, then 41, left his wife and children to live with Powers. Though no charges were filed in that case, the scandal attracted widespread media attention. According to Gonzalez, Hooker referenced Powers to Rose in conversations, comparing the two girls as a way to manipulate and control her. Quote, that was his mind game, she said. Rose's family described the relationship as isolating and coercive. Her parents said Hooker controlled her internet access and social life, alienating her from family and friends, and kept her under constant watch. Quote, when the Turlock Police Department says to you, oh yes, that house is well known to us, that's heartbreaking, Gonzalez said. Something should have been done a long time ago. Both parents say that Rose had no real story of alcohol use and did not like taking medications, which made the cause of death especially hard to accept. Quote, she told me he gave her alcohol and that she didn't even like taking aspirin, said Matthew Rose. Quote, now they say she drank herself to death, and I just don't believe that. Prosecutors said investigators found no evidence of foul play. Quote, the autopsy showed she died of health-related causes, Emerson said, that's the DA, but Gonzalez isn't convinced. Even if he didn't kill her directly, he let her die. He was her husband. He had a duty of care, and he did nothing. Complicating matters is a restraining order by Hooker against Rose stemming from a prior domestic violence case. Though the order was active earlier this year, court records indicate the two were still living together at the time of her death. Her parents were stunned by the situation, particularly because the order originated under troubling circumstances. According to Matthew, Hooker provoked Autumn Rose into slapping him so he could file the order. Quote, he got her to slap him, he said. He used it against her as another way to control her. In a 2024 court hearing, Gonzalez recalled her daughter telling the judge she had been asking Hooker for a divorce for months. Hooker later dropped the restraining order after allegedly contacting Autumn Rose, despite claiming to fear for his safety. Gonzalez believes that her daughter was beginning to realize the extent of the abuse. She started to see it, her mother said, but then he got back in her head again. Both parents hoped that the criminal case against Hooker would lead to justice and separation. Autumn Rose had given prior statements to police, and her mother assumed that would be enough to move forward. Quote, when they dropped that charge, I was in shock, Gonzalez said. No one even told us beforehand. I've been at every court hearing Hooker has been at, and we weren't even given the basic respect. Autumn Rose's aunt, Mandy Mitchell, said the timing of her death is no coincidence. Quote, the one person who could have put him away forever is dead, she said. How many more little girls have to be ripped of their innocence or even dead before something is done? For now, Rose's parents are left with questions and grief and a determination to protect her legacy. I couldn't agree more with that. So as you can imagine, the media is all over this. And the questions regarding her death, the timing of it, all of that, it puts a lot of pressure on the Stanislaus County District Attorney's Office. And they are kind of forced, in my opinion, to look at this case again. So on November 17th of 2025, just a little over a month from this recording, they announced that after further review, they are restating that initial first charge against Hooker, and in March of 2026, a hearing will be the first public presentation of evidence to determine if the case proceeds to trial. Deputy District Attorney Harshan Samra declined to detail reinstatement reasons due to the ongoing investigation, but he did urge potential victims to contact authorities. How nice of you. He noted the challenge of victimless prosecutions, but affirmed sufficient evidence exists and thanked the family for their patience, stating justice takes time. Now, the father, Matthew Rose, said, "I'm glad they reinstated the charges. There's a hole in my heart that will never be filled. I miss her terribly." Marina Gonzalez, her mother, said, "It gave me a little bit of hope that what happened to Autumn isn't going to be swept aside. Justice for Autumn is what her father and I are fighting for. We feel disgust and sadness, noting the slow legal process." James Hooker, of course, he didn't make any public statement, and he refused to comment when he was approached and asked for a comment. So as of this recording, December 29th, 2025, the case is ongoing in Stanislaus County Superior Court. Hooker remains out of custody on bond. Now, he is facing both reinstated charges, and the next steps include the case management hearing that occurs on February 23rd of 2026, and then a preliminary examination on March 16th of 2026, where evidence will be presented publicly for the first time. I will definitely keep you updated on all that. Now, personally, just my opinion, but I would encourage the family of Autumn Rose to have a private autopsy done. Something just doesn't sit right with me at all regarding the initial coroner's findings. Look, people make mistakes. It's possible a mistake could have been made here. Something could have been missed. A second opinion never hurts. And I know these types of things are very costly, but maybe they can get a GoFundMe going or something, because there's a lot of eyes on this case, probably a lot of people willing to donate some money to get that done. I would look into that if the family of Autumn Rose is listening to this. And if you'd like to come on the podcast, I would love to do an interview with you and get your side of this. As for James Hooker, I hope it's as clear to everyone else as it is to me. Just my opinion, but I don't think this guy's ever going to stop, in my view. I think he needs to be locked up and he needs to be dealt with. Just saying. My opinion only. As for everybody else, thank you so much for listening. Check out the Patreon, patreon.com/exposed podcast files, commercial free early releases, bonus episodes, quarterly gifts for our top tier members. I drop all kinds of files and pictures and everything else on that page that you can't get anywhere else. You can actually sign up for as little as $2.50 a week, which I hope you find worth the price of admission. I could not do it. I could not do this show without all of my celebrity members, as I lovingly refer to these people as. I couldn't do it without them. Show is just too expensive to run. So thank you so much to all my celebrity members on Patreon. I love you more than you know. And until next time, for Exposed Scandalous Files of the Elite, I'm your host, Jim Chapman. Much love.